Welcome, fans, to another edition live of the Cheap Heat Productions podcast. My name is Jack Kilby, no gimmicks guy, and I am really excited about this one, fans. This is a man who had, you throw the term around legend a lot these days, but this guy really had a legendary career, and he's got a lot of new initiatives on the go. We're going to get into all his expansion into social media and forthcoming expansions, but he's got a book coming out that we'll also talk about quite a bit. We don't have a firm release date yet, but it's going to be called The Dangerous Truth, and it will be about this individual's career and life. And I'm very pleased to welcome to the show, and thank you very much for coming on today, Mr. Dangerous Dan Spivey.
Thanks, Chad, for having me.
So, in terms of your career, you were a standout football player at the university level, and you got drafted by the Jets. Then I understand you had an injury, and you made a transition from football to pro wrestling. How did that come about, and what drew you to the sport of wrestling?
Well, after I got hurt, and I was kind of lost, and for about 10 years, I did several different things, and I didn't break into the wrestling until I was 34 years old, and I already had a knee injury, so I was pretty beat up before I ever got into wrestling. And the way that happened was I was at a country western bar in Tampa, and got to know Dusty Rhodes, and he asked me if I wanted to be a wrestler, and I said sure, because I'd always been a fan all my life as far as wrestling. And so Dusty got me in the front door. He put me and Scott Hall together and named us the American Starship tag team, Eagle and Coyote. Well, we about starved to death with that deal. Dusty got this happened in Tampa, and then Dusty became the booker for up in North Carolina, so we followed him up there, and about starved to death. And I got to know Harley Race. He was in town in Charlotte there where we were staying, and we got talking to him, and so he said, well, why don't you come and work for me in Kansas City? So we said, sure. So we went to Kansas City, and we go to the office, and Harley's not there. So I talked to Bob Geigel, and he says, I don't know who you guys are. I said, well, where's Harley? Oh, Harley's in Japan. And so anyway, we got that straightened out. We had a job with Harley's Kansas City territory, and about starved to death. And we drove 3,000 miles a week and made $200. And so luckily I talked to Dusty, and so I left Scott in Kansas City and went back to Charlotte, and nothing worked out there. I got to know Ricky Steamboat pretty well, and Ricky got me a job up in WWF at the time. And so that was my first big break. And from there, Barry Windham had quit and left Rotundo in New York. And so since I was tall and blonde, I took Barry Windham's spot. And so Mike took care of me early in my career. He really did. Him and Steamboat were big help to me. And so that's how I got started.
Yeah, a lot of fans are interested in the training for the business back in the day, and being trained by legends such as the American Dream. I'm sure that really set the standard for your career moving forward. Can you talk a little bit about how the old school training was for you, and perhaps contrast that with the more singular approach that the WWE uses in NXT and the Performance Center, etc.?
We lost you there for a minute, Jack.
Did you hear my question?
Yes, I did. I tell you, it was rough at the start because when we went from Tampa to Charlotte for Jim Crockett Promotions, the one that Dusty was the booker for, they didn't have a ring anywhere. And so me and Scott would go into the like a warehouse, and they put down these little mats that you do yoga on, and we were taking bumps on these little mats that people do yogas on, which is only like a half-inch thick. And we were just throwing ourselves up in the air and hitting those mats, and it was pure concrete. And that's the way we learned how to take bumps. We didn't have a ring, so we weren't really taught anything. That was why we went to Kansas City, is because they could use us every night up there. And so really that's how we got our break was and learned was in the ring, working in Kansas City, just swinging it. And it turned out pretty well for us. It really did. And so, but nowadays, guys couldn't take it, I don't believe. And I hear at the WWF or WWE has like 7 rings at their training facility. So it's a big difference.
As I mentioned at the top, we have a lot of fan questions, and I might as well hit this one because you've already cited it. A lot of the wrestling historians remember the American Starship and teaming with Scott Hall. A fan by the name of Paul sent in a question who wanted to know what it was like working. What was Scott like at that young stage of his career? And I think you may have answered the second part of the question, but he wanted to know when you had all the tools in terms of, size, look, etc., why you didn't find more long-term success in that iteration in JCP.
It's Scott was fine. Scott was at that time. He was huge. He's probably the biggest guy in the business. He was jacked. He was, and he was green like me, and we got along fine, and I had different views than he did, and which worked out for him quite well, and it worked out for me, later on, and it was just. It was hard for us. It really was, because we basically learned on the road, traveling every night, and just we're getting in the ring and doing the best we could.
And the reason you didn't stay longer again was the financial aspect of it.
Yes, that was true. Very true.
That makes sense. In terms of your move to the WWF at the time, were you concerned at all that you were being slotted into that position that Wyndham vacated? And do you have any? A lot of fans have asked if you had how that came together in detail, and if you had any major interactions with Mr. McMahon at that time. What you thought of the difference between WWF and Crockett Promotions?
It's just quite different. I mean, the whole attitude was different. The fans were different up there on the East Coast, but it was just. I'd say Vince was a little bit more first class, and I just enjoyed working for him a lot better than I did Crockett. The money was a lot better. That's the main thing.
Clearly. Did you enjoy the tag team when you're starting out? Did you see yourself as, probably not because of your size, etc., but did you see yourself as fitting into that tag team mode, or were you hoping for a singles run?
Well, I enjoyed working with Mike Rotunda. I mean, he was a good teacher. I learned a lot from him. But I had deep down inside, I wanted to be a single, make it on my own, because I'm just competitive, and I just wanted to be the best I could be, you know, and I felt I could show that with my own personal skills.
Here's a question from Ibzan, is a very smart fan. He wants to know, did you know the WWF magazine were going to announce your retirement in a full-page article shortly after you retired? Were you glad they did when you saw it?
I know this is the first I ever heard about it, so I don't know anything about it. I'd like to see it, see what it was said.
There you go. I'm sure Ibzan will have the link then. In by way of your reputation online, a lot of fans talk about how you were a guy who wasn't to be trifled with in the locker room. I know you had an incident that has been documented quite a bit with Adrian Adonis, but did you have any other situations where you were tested? I'm thinking especially coming into the business where back then it was a much rougher industry. Did you have a lot of people or any others try and take liberties with you like that?
No, not really. I mean, there's guys that tried a little bit, but they knew better. And I had a few guys over in Japan that I had to break in and teach them some stuff. But other than that, not much.
Probably very, very wise. After your tenure in WWF came to an end, wanted to ask why that happened and then how you ended up again in WCW before we talk about more of your tag work.
I don't understand the question. When I left WCW, I went to Bennett's and worked there, and gosh, I guess I did. I spent so long ago I didn't remember that, but yeah, I went to Japan after I got let go the first time from Vince. I was out of I had nowhere to go, and luckily Terry Funk called me, and I knew Terry briefly. I worked with him once in New York, and I was hurting for money. I mean, I was out of work, didn't have anywhere to go, and Terry called me, and he asked me if I wanted to go to Japan. I said, sure, I'll go to Japan. I just want to work. He said, okay, I'll call you back. And so Terry called me back. He said, Dan, he said, I got you a job over in Japan. And I told him, they said that they would give you $3,500 a week. I said, man, that's good. He said, but I told them that, you were going to show them where your heart was and that you would come over for $3,000 a week. And I can tell you what that other 500 went. It went to Terry probably. But anyway, he became a great friend and a great mentor, and he helped me a lot too. It's hard to make it in this business without help from other people, and I was very fortunate. Terry Funk, I loved the guy to death, and I was very close with him and his family. And then I started working in Japan, and so when I came back, WCW asked me to come in and work on days that I wasn't working in Japan, and so I did, and that's where the skyscrapers came up, and that's when me and Sid were together, and so that's switching back and forth from companies and stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of the historians and the fans look back fondly on the skyscrapers. What were you thinking when that was initially presented to you with the late great Sid and the involvement of Theodore Long as the manager? It seemed like you guys were destined to be around a long time and hold the belts, etc. Can you just talk about your first inclination when you were going to be put together and your thoughts to start, please?
Well, I came back from Japan, and let's see, who was it that called? Kevin Sullivan got a hold of me and said, "We got this great idea. We got another young guy that big guy like you, Dan, and we want to put you guys together and call you the Skyscrapers." I said, "Well, okay." And so I met Sid, and Sid was green, and you know, he was huge, and he had to look, you know, but his ring skills were limited, and but you know, we got along, and we were successful. And we worked with the Steiner brothers and the Road Warriors quite a bit, and Sid got hurt, punctured his lung some way or another without anybody touching his skin in the ring. He got a punctured lung. How that happened, nobody knows. But anyway, and then so I didn't know what we were going to do. And then Kevin came to me again. We got this other guy that we're going to put with you, and happened to be the Undertaker, Mark Calloway. And you know, we just weren't going anywhere. They wouldn't do anything with us. You know, this Road Warriors were beating us every night, and it was just going nowhere. So I went back to Japan, and Mark stayed around there for a little bit, and then he became the Undertaker, which he works out great. And he became probably the best working big guy in wrestling ever. You know, he's very talented. His gimmick was the greatest I've ever seen, and he could work, you know, for a big guy. And so, you know, things worked out very well for him.
Absolutely. Was there ever any consideration from the office in making either version of the Skyscraper world champions? Like, did you know what kind of a spot they had in mind for you? Because some of the mythology is that you know, you were destined for that, and then it just didn't materialize for reasons nobody seems to understand. Was that your take on it too?
Yes, it was. That's the whole reason I left. It just wasn't going anywhere. And so I had an opportunity to go back to Japan full time. So that's what I did.
One of the fans sent in a question about in previous discussions and interviews, you voiced some issues with the Road Warriors, and wanted to know what the origin of that, if it's correct to say that heat with Hawk and Animal came from.
I just didn't like the way they were treating Mark. You know, I thought they took liberties with him here and there, and so I was just frustrated and aggravated and pissed, and so that's where that came from. You know, but it never went any further than what everybody saw.
One of the matches that another fan asked about that I'm sure you're probably surprised that people are still talking about it years after it happened, and the fact that it aired on television was that match with the enhancement talent against yourself and Sid, where the guy completely, I think his name was Carr, completely no-sold everything, and folks seem to be can't get enough about the details of that match, because it's amazing that it aired on TV. What do you remember about that situation and what happened to the guy afterwards? Because that's the second most asked question after they ask about the match, is what happened to him in the back.
Yeah, that guy was an idiot. I mean, I guess his family or his girlfriend was there, and he wanted to look good, and so, you know, I hit him pretty hard a couple of times, but I wasn't really trying to hurt the guy. I was hoping that he would eventually just go sell on his own, but he didn't, and so I just got a little stiff with him, and you know, I don't know if I can tell what happened to him backstage. He just guess what happened. I guess it was fun.
Is that something that I'm sure that's the most egregious example of a guy not or going into business for himself or whatever you want to call it. But has that ever happened to you before or since? And I guess those guys they don't get the call back to return, I guess, is the bottom line.
Yeah. No, I never had a guy do that. I mean, I was totally surprised. I mean, how stupid can you be? You know? And obviously, he didn't know much about me, or he'd never done that, or wished he wouldn't have done that. I mean, he's just dumber than a bag of rocks. I mean, to do that, it was ridiculous. And,
were you surprised that it made television?
oh yeah, I couldn't believe they showed that. I mean, that was dumb too, as far as I'm concerned, because it looked like crap, and it's nothing I'm proud of. That's probably the worst thing that I ever did on TV was that match. I mean, it was just stupid, uncalled for, And the guy's really lucky he really didn't get hurt, So.
Mm-hmm. Another question that came in was with respect to your manager Teddy Long. Did you enjoy having him as part of the package? And did you think that having a mouthpiece was a good thing for both versions of the Skyscrapers?
I thought Teddy Long's great. He's a legend, man. He was a great manager, a great friend, and Teddy was a huge part of the Skyscrapers.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned your tours of Japan, and they were quite successful, teaming with Hansen and Johnny Ace and others. How did you find that experience, a differing one from the U.S., and do you have any most famous or not famous, most fond memories of working in Japan?
Japan was a total surprise first time over, and the deal with Japan is that it's rough over there compared to the wrestling in the States. Japan, as long as you don't break any bones and you don't bust somebody open, it's good. That's the way they like it. It's stiff. A lot of guys would come over and never come back because they couldn't take it. It was you had to be a certain type of person to be able to take that kind of abuse. And me and Stan against Terry Gordy and Steve Williams were some of the greatest matches I ever had. We all worked together well, and the matches were believable. People really had to wonder, was it fake or was it real? And most of the time it was real. And we just worked together. We had great respect for each other, and we had some great matches.
Did you find that working in Japan took an accelerated toll on your body, or was that just the nature of wrestling period back in that time frame?
No, working in Japan definitely took some years off my wrestling career, but I wouldn't have it any other way. It was a pleasure working with those guys and being able to hang with them. Those matches were very good. I had trouble, being in Japan and then coming back working in the States. Guys would complain about me being so stiff and everything. And, it's just coming back from Japan. I mean, it's just natural. And I had to really watch myself working with the guys in the States and be a little easier with them.
Do you, taking a look at I'm not sure whether you follow the product today, but there's a lot of fans that have lapsed from the golden era of the 80s and 90s of the product, because that aspect of realism or working snug or the hard-hitting nature seems to be gone in favor of a lot of like everybody's a luchador now, acrobatics, et cetera, et cetera. What are your thoughts on how, and everybody says, oh, the business evolves, but what are your thoughts on moving away from that day when, as you said, sometimes fans had to guess whether it was a shoot or not?
Me and my wife watch, here and there, watch the product they're putting on now. It's it's bad, in my opinion. You have to be a gymnast nowadays to be able to compete and do what everybody's doing. I saw a match, watching the matches, A&W last night, and they were doing it in Mexico. I mean, everything was a somersault, coming off the top rope, doing flips and 1.5s and 360s. And, my boots didn't get off the ground more than a foot. So I wouldn't be able to do it today, what they do. I mean, it's just so choreographed, and, it's just a bunch of bullshit as far as I'm concerned. I'm probably going to get heat about it. But now the WWE has some guys, big guys that work snug and do believable things. And, but that other group, it's just not good, as far as I can see. There's one of the Steiner's kids is wrestling now. He's good and snug. And you got, what's the other guy? Sheamus and Drew McIntyre. Those guys are believable in what they do and stuff. There's only a few of them.
Yeah, that's an interesting side to that question, and not meant to get anybody any heat or anything like that. But aside from a few of the guys that you just mentioned, back in the 80s, the 90s, like Vince McMahon had that famous airport test. If you walk through an airport, they're going to go, whoa, that guy is somebody. Now it seems that particularly, some of the other company and others, these guys look like, they're working at the IHOP, or they just look like anybody else. And I think for a lot of the lapsed fans and the fans that really enjoyed the classic product, having these indistinguishable, normal, for lack of a better term, looking guys has really lost a lot of the magic in the product as well. Would you agree with that the move away from the big guys such as yourself, Sid, Barry Windham, you could name them all, that has hurt the business from an attraction standpoint as well?
100%. I mean, people were actually scared of us, and they respected us, but nowadays, we were watching last night, and there's guys that have the belts that are about 150 pounds. How in the hell can you be scared of a guy that's 150, under 200 pounds? I mean, and be the world's champ? It just won't happen. I mean, if they respect the person, they respect him because he's a good gymnast, not because he's a good wrestler and a scary person who can beat the hell out of you if he wanted to. I mean, it's just not the same. And, I'm probably going to get heat for saying all this, but it's the truth. It's not believable anymore. And it's not snug, and people know this is all bullshit. It's not, in fact, that was real. No, it wasn't. Yeah, it was. You don't have that anymore. It's just bullshit.
Yeah, and a lot of people defend, the total lack of kayfabe as again, the business evolving, and this is a natural sort of progression. But do you think they've taken it too far to the point where it's hard for a fan to suspend disbelief, or do you see that as a natural progression as well?
Well, I just see the business. It's just no comparison to what we used to do. I mean, matches that I had with the Steiner brothers, there were some good, stiff, hardcore matches, and people, really enjoyed them, you know, because they thought it was real, and we were doing our best to make it look real. You know, now guys can't throw punches, and it's just not like it used to be. And I'm just telling the truth. It doesn't look good.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. One of your most beloved characters that seems to have a huge cult following. Everybody asked about this when we announced the interview. Is you made a return to the WWF, of course, about '95, and rolled out with this Waylon Mercy character based as so the information goes on De Niro's character in Cape Fear. What was it like in terms of developing that persona, putting your own real take on it? And you talk about fear and menacing. What a menacing character that was in the new generation era. Did they have this in mind for you when you made your way back, or how did that all play out, Dan?
Yeah, I was working in Japan, and I got a call from Briscoe, Jerry Briscoe, and Vince came down to Tampa, and me and Jerry and Vince sat down and talked, and I came up with the idea about the movie, and Vince came up with a name, Waylon Mercy, and it was something that I really loved doing. It's the biggest regret that I have about the business is I wasn't able to do it longer, and it was just something that comes natural. I just grew up in the South, and I was used to, backwoods people like Waylon Mercy, and it was just an easy character. I just think it, didn't get to do that very long because of injuries. I just couldn't perform the way I wanted to, and Vince tried to get me to come back, and 2 weeks later, I had my knee replaced after I retired, so I was coming back. But Waylon Mercy's making a comeback. People, ask for me all the time, and so I'm trying to rebrand myself and put myself out there, which I haven't done in years. I haven't been to many autograph signings. Maybe one a year, and maybe two. But we're going to start making the rounds, and I got the book coming out, and Waylon Mercy will be at these book signings, I'm sure. Lives are going to be in Waylon Mercy's hand. You know what I mean?
That's tremendous. It's interesting. You said that it was cut short due to an injury, and you were supposed to be. I take it when you're introduced, you were a heel, a dirty guy after all the Southern gentleman pleasantries, etc. But it seemed that the fans would have turned Waylon Mercy into a huge baby face eventually. Did you notice that how over the character was almost immediately after you were introduced?
Yeah, it was a Raw. I opened up Raw one night, on Monday night, with the clown, and people were chanting, "Kill the clown! Kill the clown!" And it was a terrible match because the guy that was playing the clown didn't know how to respond to that, and it was just turned out to be a shitty match too. So anyway, he got beat up. So anyway, but Waylon Mercy was unbelievable. I just had the first opportunity to be somebody other than Dan Spivey, and I didn't get to finish it. It's unfinished business as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. A fan wanted me to ask you, when you were Waylon Mercy, your experience working that famous match with Canada's own Bret the Hitman Hart.
What does he want to know? How I felt about the match?
Just how your experience was working with him in that capacity as Waylon Mercy? Any particular memories from the match itself, or that sort of thing?
Yeah, I remember the match. I've been working in Japan quite a bit, and I came back and I was doing the Waylon Mercy deal, and I guess I was a little stiff with Brett, and he was whining about I was too stiff. I treated him like a jobber, and I said, I was just working, man, and if I was a little stiff, I'm sorry. But anyway, he didn't enjoy the match, but I did. I thought it was okay. So, but I had worked with Brett, years ago with the American Express. Me and Rotundo worked with him against Neihart and him. So I had worked with Brett several times, but I was pretty green then, and then I became more experienced and more stiffer, I guess, as time went on.
Yeah, it didn't seem to be overly stiff on television. Anyway, I thought it was a good match. There certainly wasn't a lot of air or light between the moves, but didn't seem stiff. That's surprising to me.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you're not the only person that felt that way.
And then after your run there was cut short, you got credit for, or there's a story behind you working with Wyndham Rotunda on the Bray Wyatt character and helping that next generation of the character come to light. Can you talk about how that came to pass?
Well, as you know, me and Mike were good friends, and I was friends with the Wyndhams and the Rotundas, and and I talked to Wyndham and down there at the training facility, and he was asking me questions about Waylon Mercy, and I gave him some ideas and helped him get started with that character, and he became a huge success. He really did. He did a great job with that character. And I'm glad I had a little part in it.
Yeah. Again, cut way too short. What could have been. A fan sent in another question, and I definitely was going to ask you this about your experience working for Herb Abrams in the UWF. It seemed like you were going to be the top guy there, and big things were afoot with the company. But we all know how it turned out. What was your introduction to Mr. Abrams and experience overall?
He was just a crazed dog, man. That guy was way out in left field, and I won the belt. I got the belt, and all the guys were having a hard time getting their money and stuff. And so I didn't have a problem with the money because I had his belt, and he loved that belt. And so I wouldn't give it to him, unless I got paid. And so anyway, he ended up stiffing a lot of people, and it was just unbelievable how wild that guy with the cocaine and it was just ridiculous. And we had that huge show in Vegas, the MGM Grand, and we had this big arena, and it's like maybe 1,500 people, which looked like nothing in the MGM Grand. And this huge show, and the guy was just all over the place. I heard he stiffed the MGM Grand in Vegas. I mean, which can't be healthy for you, to do that. And so he wasn't around too much longer after that either. So who knows?
Did you think when you came on board with that UWF that it was going to be a contender to be one of the big national promotions, as Mr. Abrams said?
No, they didn't have a chance because the guy was he was just way out in left field. It was just pipe dreams. He was going to hire all these people. He knew nothing. He knew nothing about the business. He was in the clothing industry, and I understand his wife had some money, and he just lost a fortune.
Mm-hmm. You were involved in Bruiser Brody's last match in Puerto Rico. Do you have any memories of that night and how that tragic death impacted you?
Oh yeah, it was. I was sad about. I mean, it was just terrible what happened. I never met Brody before, and so the night before he was died, it was in a tag team match. It was me and Abdullah the Butcher against him and Carlos. And so I go to the ring and get in there, and me and Brody wrestling around the ring and stuff. And then we went out on the floor, and we're rolling around on the floor. He says, "We're going to make a lot of money in Japan. I'm getting the F out of here." So I go back to the dressing room, and people are kind of, "What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean, what am I doing?" "Nobody rolls around the floor with Bruiser Brody." I said, "Well, I just did." And they said, "You did?" I said, "Well, you saw it, didn't you?" They said, "Yeah." And so that was the first time I met him. And the next night we were supposed to work, and that's the night he was killed. And so I went and got on a plane that night, flew back to Tampa.
Did you during the time frame that you were in Puerto Rico? Did you experience any of the a lot of the individuals that worked there back in the day that I had the pleasure of speaking with talk about just how wild and chaotic the fans were? Did you experience any of that when you were there?
I had to have the National Guard take me to the ring. You know, they did most of their shows in the ballparks and stuff. And I remember getting hit one night with a spark plug. Who gets hit with a spark plug in a wrestling match? I did, you know. And luckily, they had the National Guard help me get to the ring and back, you know, especially when I was fighting Carlos. And so Carlos was quite over. It was his territory, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely the stuff of legend. After retiring, you I understand transitioned into a very successful construction company and have been involved in a sobriety movement yourself, an organization. How did you find life after wrestling? Given you had unfinished business there, it seemed to be that you were going to be the most successful ever in your career, at least in the States, with Wayland Mercy. And what inspired you to focus on helping others?
Well, after wrestling, I had a lot of injuries, as people know, and I just got involved with taking painkillers, and I took a lot more than I should have, and I got involved with some other drugs, and I was trying to kill myself. I was very depressed. I just didn't care anymore, and I was only 56 at the end there, and I just had a hard time coping with life on life's terms, and so I ended up basically trying to kill myself, and the WWE found out about it, and they put me through not once but like 3 times to drug rehab, and I had 6 hip replacements on one side. They kept popping out. I had problems with it. I had 2 knee replacements. I had a neck fusion, and I've been through 6 wives, 5 wives at the time, and I just my life was in total chaos. And the last time, my brother called the WWE and talked to Ann Borden at the time, and she was the head of the alcohol and drug rehab program that the WWE has, and she made arrangements to have me sent out to Houston, Texas, the miniature clinic that dealt with mental illness. And while I was there in a rubber room, I just decided to give this sobriety a chance and take 2 years off. And I just decided to give this sobriety a chance and take 2 years off. And I just decided to give this sobriety a chance and 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 give take some suggestions from people and try and straighten my life out. And, one of the nurses there told me, he says, Dan, it's not your fault that you're an alcoholic and a drug addict, but it is your responsibility to take care of it. And that just resonated with me. And so I decided to start going to meetings and listening to people who became successful in beating drugs and alcohol. And, today I'm 16 years sober. And so, if I can do it and make it, anybody can do it. And so that's about what the book is about. It's about my life story, my struggles, all the stuff that I went through, the injuries, and me turning my life around. And, one of the reasons I didn't want to get sober is I was having so much fun, I thought. And, what a ridiculous thing that was. But how am I going to have fun? I mean, how am I going to find another wife if I can't go to strip clubs, So, but as it turned out, I'm having more fun and life is good. And I have a great marriage. I have a great partner in life and who's helped me write this book. And we just hope this book gets out there and I can, tell them and show them from the book that there is a way out and you can lead a good life and it's available. Just take some suggestions.
That's an amazing story, and I'm sure you're going to reach, a lot of people that, if a man's man and a big time tough guy can, have those challenges that bring them down low, and you can beat that and come out the other side in a much better way. I'm sure you're going to inspire a ton of people. We'll talk about the upcoming release again towards the end, but one last fan question. They wanted to know how, and I understand the name of your LLC is Dan The Lefthand Man. They were asking how you got that moniker.
Well, if anybody knows anything about the story about Adrian Adonis, they would know about the left hand. I mean, because I got a pretty strong left hook. And every time I hit Adrian, it split him open. And, each time I hit him was with the left hand. And that's how come the boys used to call me Big Dan, the Left Hand Man. Big Dollar Dan, the Left Hand Man.
That's tremendous. My friend and former participant in the wrestling company I had here up in Canada for years, Rene Dupree, is watching. He says hello, and it's been 14 years.
Congratulations! Awesome.
I'm certain again that in terms of your legacy, that is definitely a major part of it, an accomplishment. But focusing on your time in the ring, and I know this is a very difficult question to boil down to a few sentences, but what are you most proud of in your career, and what would you want the fans to remember you by, just strictly in terms of your time in active in the ring?
Are you asking about my career as a wrestler?
Yes, that portion, yes.
I like everybody to remember me as a guy that could take care of himself and didn't take crap up of nobody and get away with it. I guess being a tough guy, I demand respect and I'll give respect, but I don't want anybody to disrespect. Even today, I demand respect, and to give me respect, I'll return it. And so, I guess that's hardcore, tough guy wrestler. So I don't know.
Well, that's definitely, I think, cemented in terms of the legacy of the business forever. if I know you received the Frank Gotch Award, and you were in the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, a huge honor. Would you be open to, or how would you feel if and when WWE calls and they want to put you in?
How would I feel? Uh, I would be very happy if they did, and I doubt that will ever happen. But if it did, that would be awesome.
Well, Dan, I really appreciate your time this afternoon. I want to once again provide an opportunity to talk about the book that's coming out, where the fans can keep up on that, and all. I know you're doing personal appearances and have a number of other social media projects on the go. Where's the best place for everyone to keep up with everything that Dan Spivey is doing?
Well, the book is coming out. It should be out before the first of the year. But the best place to get a hold of me is on Facebook, danspivey.com.
Well, we're going to continue to watch that, and we'll definitely help get the word out to everyone about your book. But again, very much appreciate your time. Want to thank you for coming on the Cheap Heat Productions podcast.
Thanks for having me. This is the first one I've done in a long time, so if I stuttered through it and everything, I hope people understand. So it was awesome talking to you, and the questions were great.
No, sir, it was absolutely excellent. And as I mentioned to Ann and yourself, big fan of your work, and looking forward to see what else you have coming down the road.
Thanks, Jack. I appreciate it. Thanks for being easy with me.
Well, fans, that's it for this edition. Make sure, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification button, and you won't miss big content like this one. I'm Jack Kilby for the legendary Dangerous Dan Spivey. Thanks for watching today. Thank you for watching this video. Please give it a like if you enjoyed it. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at Cheap Heat Productions. Don't forget to